Galnet News, your galaxy in focus. 29th of December, 3300. The conflict in the Host C system has intensified since our last report, with more conflict zones emerging and the fighting increasing in fervour. The conflict, which is between the Federal-aligned Jetcoms Limited and the independent Host C Corporation, appears to be going the way of Jetcoms and the Federation, with much of the fighting seeing a numerical advantage for Jetcoms, but the struggle is by no means over, and the balance could easily tip either way. We have yet to receive reports of Federal capital ships in the Host C system, but there is some question as to their availability due to the extended blockade which continues in Kappa Fornacis under the command of Admiral Vincent, and no official word has emerged yet on the situation in Host C. Elsewhere in inhabited space, a conflict continues in the LHS 1914 system. The Federal-aligned LHS 1914 Liberals faction now has a 38% influence, while the Independents LHS 1914 Natural Incorporated are at 30%. A report suggests civil war is also affecting the Barnard Star system, where two federal factions, Barnard Star Advanced Corporation and the Barnard Star Alliance, have engaged in their own conflict. Civil war also affects the region surrounding Alioth today, as the Alioth Independent faction have triggered a conflict affecting the nearby 78 Ursae Majoris and Sobex systems. The latest updates from the Mikun system suggest that the campaign to bring power back to the Dukes of Mikun, who initially began an incursion into the neighbouring HR 7327 earlier this week, has stalled, with their influence not having increased substantially since our last report. In the traditional speeches yesterday that marked the reopening of Congress after the holiday, Congressman and Shadow President Zachary Hudson has outlined his views for the coming year. In a long speech highly critical of his opponent President Halsey, the only new element was his criticism of federal youth. He said, "We need to get the unemployed lazy youth of our core systems off their backsides. They need to get off their sims and into the real world to do something useful. We need to counter the Imperial threat. Let's get them into the Marines and the Navy. Let's spend our tax credits on protection, not sloth. The Navy never did me any harm." His comments come after his statements earlier this week in which he appeared to back Federal Admiral Vincent's decision to blockade the Kappa Fornacis system, a move criticised by President Halsey, and one which appears to have divided her from the Shadow President. The armed conflict between Senator Petraeus' Imperial forces and those of impoverished Jurius system continues. Petraeus is paying well for outside assistance, but an exhausted Governor Malachi has spoken out. "What can we do? Our people are dying. We cannot pay even the interest on these crippling debts. Those irresponsible fools that accepted this money in the first place are long gone, but we are left to pick up the pieces. How can we ever hope to get out of this hell? I call on those independent governments out there, like ours, thinking of getting into debt with this evil senator, to think twice. We are forced to protect our homes because that is all we have left." Jurius is under siege by Imperial forces under Senator Petraeus' control after defaulting on its debt to Petraeus, taken out in 3294. Imperial forces gave Jurius a 24-hour period in which to repay its debt in full, and talks with Governor Malachi aboard an Imperial Majestic-class vessel broke down, leading to the situation as it stands now. After the recent slave rebellion in the Sorbago system, we have more comment now from Senator Torval. Senator Torval has already blamed outside forces for the recently suppressed rebellion in Sorbago. Last night on the political debate panel show, Question Everything, she went further, saying, "Yes, these are terrible events, but sometimes people are easily led. My forces have reported ships coming from Luluwala supplying guns to the rebels. It is completely unacceptable, especially when it is a federal-backed system like this." Many commentators have been surprised at Senator Torval openly accusing the Federation for the rebellion. When contacted, a federal embassy official dismissed the accusations as nonsense. In a move causing shockwaves throughout federal space, President Halsey has announced federal tax increases. "I am sorry, and I appreciate people are frustrated about this," she said, "but I have to announce further federal tax rises. This is to cover our ever-increasing welfare burden and high military spending. Federal taxation is already a problem throughout federal space, and this squeeze where the frontier worlds are effectively supporting the rich core systems is causing unrest amongst the frontier states. Commentators have suggested that the Shadow President's speech yesterday was triggered by some inside knowledge or leak from the President's staff. Confidence ratings of the President are now at an all-time low. And that's the Galnet news for today. Tune in next time to keep your galaxy in focus.